Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week. Hey, Paul.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah. Kenny's just jumping in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
So sounds like you know JP from
I do.
Smart Marketing, right? You guys used to work at the Nun?
Yeah. We used to slog yogurt everywhere.
That's right. Morning, Kenny.
Yeah.
Good morning, Paul. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I am doing A-okay.
And we only met once briefly, right, at the curling bonspiel.
That's it, baby.
Yeah.
Killing it on the ice. Killing it on the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna do the Briar a couple weeks later, but figured give the guys a break.
Yeah.
You know.
I love that sport, but I suck. Like I'm a decent athlete at most things, but it's such a simple, like all you got to do is get the rock down the ice, right? But I can't. It's either it stops halfway or I'm trying to kill everybody on the other side.
Easy.
Like
it's a really difficult game.
Incredibly
people don't appreciate it, but it's a tough sport. I mean, it's reading the ice, understanding the physics behind the sweeping. Like there's a lot of stuff going on, and those rocks are 40 pounds.
Yeah,
physics behind the sweeping. Who cares about the sweep? I can't get the thing. Like I literally cannot get. It's either halfway and it just stops and you look like a complete idiot, right? Because or you're literally trying to kill people on the other side, right?
It's gone into the restaurant.
It's kind of crazy.
And you're worrying about your feet and stepping on the things on your head.
Falling on your ass and looking like a complete dummy. Like, oh my gosh, right? Like
it happens. It's a fun. I quite enjoy it though. Like I like it because it's a little more of a thinking game, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to learn how to read the ice. Like you really do.
It's all finesse.
You have to understand how to turn the rocks to get the spin you want. And I enjoy it. I mean, I've never curled.
Me either.
My dad curled. My dad curled. Yeah, we did like a couple times in PE class, like in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, because every small town in Canada's got a curling rink. I was in Trail, so the curling rink and the hockey rink are in the same, obviously in the same building. But we did it in high school a little bit, and my dad curled. Right. Yeah. So we'll still watch. Like I don't mind watching the Scotties. I love watching the Briar. You know, I enjoy watching it. I just find it amazing how these people can.
I like watching it from the pub that's attached usually to the
that's okay. That's a good one too.
That's what I decided. I was like, you know what? For all of this, I think a nice cold beer is the only thing that should be cold. And then I'm already sitting, so there's no no risk of injury, Well, if I have too many cold ones, there's a risk of injury, but other than that, otherwise it's good. So yeah.
It's all good. I enjoy it. Like I do. I enjoy it. And it was a nice afternoon out. We got, it's nice to kind of hang out with different folks I haven't seen in a while. And I don't usually go to those events, so that was the first time I'd been.
And I'm brand new to that group, so.
Are did you join the food execs?
Yeah.
You did. Okay, so you're coming in for the meet. No, I mean this one's going to be easy. This one we're all in town no matter what anyway.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
It's
going to be fun.
Because you're not here, right? You're on Salt Spring.
Or are you? We're on Vancouver Island. We're just
Vancouver Island,
40 kilometers north of Victoria, in a town called Mill Bay.
Oh, Mill Bay is nice.
Yeah, it's not much of a town. There's like a grocery store and a few shops.
Yeah, but it's still that whole area is really, really pretty.
It's
really pretty.
We kind of chose it because we're like 2 minutes from the ocean,
right?
And it's like a 5-minute walk or whatever to the ocean. And we used to live in Calgary.
Yeah,
I'll get into that. But I used to live in Calgary, and so we decided to move out here. And then, like we were thinking, okay, well, let's go to Vancouver. It's close to the ocean. That's what from Calgary, that's where you think is close to the ocean.
Well, parts are.
You realize that if I could move to Vancouver, where I could afford to move.
Yeah,
still
close to the ocean. Like I'm in East Vancouver. We're pretty close to the ocean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the closest I can afford to get to the ocean.
So I know where Mill Bay is because this is on the way to Duncan.
Correct. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, I get it. I'm looking at a map because it's the only way I'm going to figure this out. But
we actually we had a piece of property in Duncan, between Duncan and sort of Mill Bay, up in the hills.
Okay. Yeah.
It was going to be a golf course, and the golf course went defunct. And now it's a subdivision being built. So we built and sold last year up in there. So right across, you could see what you look at Mill Bay. I mean, that's what you do.
Yeah.
It's a pretty area. Like, it's really nice
pretty
in there.
Yeah, really
nice in there.
Yeah.
It's hard to find places to go vacation after living here.
Well, because you're in perpetual vacation mode.
No, exactly. you got to go the other way, right? Like, it's almost like you got to go to New York.
Yeah, exactly.
London,
those are exciting now,
right? Like, because the rest of it, like, forget it, right? Like, why go anywhere else? You got the
keep
other
on the West Coast. Just go down to Portland and San
Francisco.
Francisco.
We drove down to the Expo West. So Barbara and I drove down there.
Oh, that's a nice drive
this year. Yeah, it was.
That's a long drive, but it's a nice drive.
We've never been down there, right?
Yeah.
We spent 2 days in Pismo Beach and kind of drove our way through the Santa Barbara and on that way down. So it was a really nice drive down. And
so you do the I-5 for most of it, and then do the PCH. So you're right on the coast, and that's a beautiful drive.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, it's lovely.
I'm glad we did it.
California is nice, right? I mean, I don't know.
It's different. Like, it just seems it's big. Everything's big, compared to where we are.
Yeah, especially when you get into the outskirts of LA, which starts about 1 billion miles from downtown LA, and just goes on for like 1 billion more miles.
No, exactly.
It's so big, it's so spread out. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. How was Expo?
Yeah,
it was good. We just walked the show this year. We didn't
nothing wrong with that. It's a nice show to walk.
It was a big walk, of course, right? And of course, there was lots of people. I think they said something like, I heard 700,000 people were in there. That seems really high.
So probably 70.
80,000
is like a big
That's
show.
A very big
That's
show.
A big show.
Okay, that makes sense.
And 70 might have been this year. I don't know. I mean, it could have been 70, 80,000, but that's huge. Like, it's a monster.
Yeah.
Right? Because you gotta remember, it's Natural Health Channel only. It's not like it's all the conventional, and I mean, it's pretty not that specific anymore that it was 25 years ago, but it's still pretty tight. Oh, good for you.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
Good for you.
Man, should we do an intro?
Yeah, Kenny? I mean, neither of us know Paul. I mean, I guess I know Paul more than you do.
Yeah.
So we have Paul Kleinschmidt on today, who came from Kyle at the Star Market. Kyle's the one that suggested that we bring Paul on. Paul has developed a line of salad dressings. I'm going to get this all wrong because, of course, I didn't read anything, but I know who you are. From nutritional yeast.
Correct. Yeah.
Made on the West Coast of this lovely country of ours. Yep. And I'm more than anything, I'm curious to see why you ended up in, especially that category, because that's another category it's a hard one to read, because between shelf stable and the stuff that's in produce and coolers, etc., and how you manage that space. But why even nutritional yeast, and how did you get into this side? I mean, I guess you're no longer a Calgarian, so you're kind of West Coast. So you've become flaky like the rest of us. Still on this call because he's East Coaster.
I'm East Coast.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean, there's only so much we can do, right? But so anyway, Paul, for the next 45 minutes or so, it's your story. Just dying to hear, know, how you come from Calgary to here, and how the hell you ended up in this space.
Okay, so we started in Calgary. I was in IT. I worked in IT for 20 something years. I actually went back to school for IT in 2000.
What were you doing in IT?
I went to SAIT, and then I worked for a company called Pason Systems. Oh, yeah. They make software and instrumentation for the drilling rigs.
Cool. Because I'm trying to. I'm already ahead of myself. I'm trying to tie in salad dressing and
no worries.
Components for rigs on an oil field. I'm seeing it. I just wanted to make sure I was really seeing it. Yeah.
So Calgary got super busy in 2007. I'd always kind of wanted to move. My wife wanted to stay there. And so out of the blue, her dad says, okay, I'm moving. So he moves to Lillooet. And she's like, well, why am I staying here now? Right. So we started looking for places to move. We looked at Nelson, and then we looked here at a friend who lived in Sydney. Yeah. And so we started looking, came out here a couple of times, really loved the area, and decided to just jumped ship. I didn't have jobs, didn't have anything going here, had no house. We just basically packed everything up, sold the house, and I had like 5 days to buy a house here, and we ended up in this place. And we just came out and figured that this community was just like Calgary as far as work goes, and got here and realized it's not quite like that.
I don't know what I was trying to figure that. I have no idea how you made that connection, but Calgary's got a million, 1 million, 2, and Mill Bay's got what, 6?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But I have to learn the hard way. That's why. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, well, maybe statistically it's almost sort of the same, right? Just to reduce scale.
Yeah, maybe.
You got to really scale down. Like, you got to really scale down.
Listen, I'm trying to help the guy out here, right?
You can't on this one.
So we got here, took 6 months off because I had some money saved up and whatnot, and then it kind of ran out, and that was right at the same time everything is going for shit in the economy, right?
Yeah, because now 2008.
Right, exactly. Dive, right? I ended up getting a job doing estimating for a plumbing firm, from an office manager, kind of for one of the guys that I met here, right. And he had 2 big contracts for buildings that he was building that he had just got before the economy went, and that lasted till about middle of 2010 or something like that. And then his company kind of folded because there was no other work for his company. Yeah. 12 guys or whatever, and no jobs to do, right? Mm-hmm. So I did that for a little while, and then ended up without a job. And so I just started kind of doing odd jobs and trying to sell IT stuff and IT services and whatnot. And then I ended up with finding a guy in Duncan that had an IT firm that he was doing IT for accounting firms. So I hooked up with him, started a partnership with him. And then that kind of fell apart after about a year or so. And I ended up working at Brentwood College School in the IT department. I don't know if you guys know what Brentwood College is, but super high end. It's like a boarding school. They're like 3rd in the country, 3rd or 4th in the country, something like that. And they're right in Mill Bay. It's right in Mill Bay. It's like 3 minutes from my house. Okay. Wow. So super stable job, and it was amazing working there. Right, really nice campus. It's like $70,000 a year for an international student to go to the school. So it's really high end.
Wow.
And then about a week later, or about a month later, Barbara got a job there in the kitchen, and her background is in professional cooking. She also went to SAIT, and she worked at the General Hospital in Calgary, and she worked in commercial kitchens her whole life, and she got a job in the kitchen there. And while we were there, this recipe kind of showed up in their kitchen, right? Nobody can say where it came from. It wasn't like Barb made the recipe and it was there, or right. Nobody can say. It was just like this old recipe that was in the back of the little, folder or whatever.
Okay. A salad dressing made from nutritional yeast,
yeah,
really,
yeah. And so they put it out. They put it out on the salad bar, and I already have this kind of entrepreneurial spirit. And the way they do their lunches is that the staff kind of go first, and then the students go afterwards, because it's that formal kind of cafeteria style. And by the time the students got there, they'd never tasted it. So it was like a year, and the kids have never tasted it because the pot was always empty. So I'm doing my market testing, my market research, and I'm thinking, we got something here. What's going on, right? And so to go. I'm going to go back a little bit, and then I'll come back to this.
So what you give me the year on this one, just so I understand.
This is about 2015, early 2016.
I mean, and the reason I'm saying that is because nutritional yeast has been used with health nuts and
vegans for years.
The crazies on that side for a long time, but it really hasn't crossed over into what people might talk about even then.
Right.
It's only been a couple of years where it's really gone crazy, because now people are doing more vegan at home and they understand nutritional yeast is that flavor component. But I'm struggling. Okay. Sorry. I'm trying to figure this one out.
No worries. So I'm going to go way back. So I have a severe gluten intolerance. Okay. And so my wife and I, we've always kind of we've clashy, right? And I've always kind of been a little bit out there, and like not stable in my mind. Like I've had a lot of anxiety and a lot of panic attacks and that kind of thing through my life. A lot of meltdowns at home, like, you know, where you rip a cabinet off the wall, that kind of stuff. I know it doesn't, it sounds strange, but anyway, so in 2010, we're having some pretty serious problems in our marriage. And I know it's my fault, right? But I can't control my emotions.
Right.
And so right before Christmas, Barbara buys me this book called Wheat Belly, right? And you know how it is. You buy the book and you read the book and now you got the thing, right? So it's like, oh, I got that, right? So we're gonna go gluten-free. And so we decided, well, we're gonna go gluten-free. So it was January 1st, 2011. We go gluten-free. And so we were like, seems great, seems fine. I don't really notice that much of a difference or anything. And then Valentine's Day comes along, and I was going to order a pizza for the family or whatever on Valentine's Day. The kids were really small at the time, and they were out of gluten-free crusts because, I mean, you know, it's 2011, so gluten-free wasn't a big thing at the time, right? So we order the regular crust and we sit down and we eat our pizza, and I have the biggest fucking meltdown our family has ever seen. Like, really? Throw a pop bottle through the wall, kind of hangs into the drywall, that kind of a meltdown, right?
Wow.
Told the kids that things were like, told them to go to bed, and then wonder why you guys in bed, and the room is spinning. I'm like the epitome of an alcoholic drunk, right? Comes home, and I didn't beat anybody. Of course, I've never hit anybody, but, you know, freaking out, that kind of thing.
Scared the hell out of the family.
Exactly. And I used to always do that, but I didn't, and it wasn't really noticeable to me until there was this gap in between. Right.
And how long was the gap?
It was 6 weeks. There was a 6-week gap.
So 6 weeks to kind of, so you kind of cleaned out.
Right. And so everything melted, everything settled down later on in the evening. And I said to Barb, I said, you know what? And obviously she's crying. We're, you know, and I'm like, this is the pizza. Like, I can't think of anything else other than this is the pizza. Right. So she's like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And I go onto my IT troubleshooting mode. Right. And so now I'm troubleshooting this, and we go through this period of about 6 months where we go back to gluten-free immediately. Right. And then I'm like, what's happening? Why is this happening? And then I have all these little mistakes, these accidents that could go on. Like, I don't know anything about this, and there's no research at that time about it. Well, not much anyway. But I'm like, well, what can I eat? Well, so I'm eating pepperoni sticks and corn chips, you know, for like 3 weeks. And then I'm like, oh, I can have sushi. So we have sushi, but I didn't realize that soy sauce has it. So I have soy sauce on it. Boom, another meltdown. And so you got to go back in your mind. Well, what did you have? Right? Where was it? And so I pointed to the soy sauce. So then another one would go, and another one would go, and then we'd always go back in time and say, well, what did you eat?
Wow.
There's about a 4-hour gap for me.
Wow.
It's about a 3 to 4 hour gap before I turn it, right? And it's like, it's almost like there's a target in the room. Like, whoever's in the room, if somebody says something that's off, all right, I feel like they've said,
or you perceive it as off.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
They're a target, right? And it turns out, from my own troubleshooting and my own thoughts, it turns out that it just makes me really confused, right? So I get really confused and I get really anxious. And so I get like zero confidence, the anxiety of it, right? So I'm confused, I'm anxious, and it comes out as frustration. I'm sure that if it was somebody else, like a woman, maybe they have a different way of coming out, right? Maybe they cry, or maybe there's somebody else that's less emotional or something like that. But for me, it came out as
frustration and anger,
which is really strange. So we go through this.
Well, no, but I guess like reactions are just different.
Well, physiological,
right?
I mean,
like
everybody's different.
It's kind of like giving your kid way too much Kool-Aid or do you know what I mean? Like
some kids sugar does
let's
nothing.
go feed them. Let's go feed them some wine gums,
right?
And see what happens, right? Like,
right.
You know, so
is this something that you do?
Get it.
Is this a common? Is this? I mean, I'm sure you've done a ton of research. I just want to hang on to this for 1 second. So I'm sure you've done a lot of reading. Is this something that people who are intolerant or celiac, is this something that is tied to that? Like, did you find out later that's not uncommon?
From the research that I've done, it kind of, so gluten, the protein for gluten, it kind of can affect your body in 3 different ways. So your stomach, which is classic celiac, right? And then can attack your skin, right? Which is psoriasis and eczema and those kinds of things. And then the third one is your brain. So it can cross the blood-brain barrier, and it can cause something called various forms of something called gluten ataxia. Right now, I'm not a doctor. Don't get me wrong. This is just the way I've read it. Right. So gluten ataxia attaches your motor cortex a little bit. So you act like you're drunk.
Okay.
And there's varying levels of how that affect you. So
that's interesting. I never heard
what I'm
that.
thinking is that's something that I have. I've never really been diagnosed with it, and I don't even want to, because I think you have to eat wheat to do it, or gluten to do it. And I don't ever want to feel that.
No, you don't want to be that guy.
You know? So anyway, so that's how I got onto the gluten. That's how the gluten-free thing came for me, and that's why.
And definitively, so noticeable. Like, so your panic attacks, anxiety, like those are gone. I mean, outside of just a crappy day, I hope.
I was on medication. Really? I was on medication since 2001. I was on antidepressant medication in 2006, I think, just before we moved here. I was diagnosed with ADHD, so I was on antidepressants and ADHD medication.
That's lovely.
And 3 months after I was on, I had no medication anymore, and I'm completely stable. And I'm my mind is like stable enough to start a business and focus enough to be able to run it for to where we're at now.
Come on, that's huge.
That's
so
huge.
Yeah, that's huge.
So, like you say, that's part of why I want to like talk and do these kind of shows, is to be able to tell that story, right? And so the other part of that is that one of the girls that works for us, she validated this whole thing for me a year ago, because she did the same thing. She went on a high protein diet, and then in March, like, she was off for like 8 weeks or whatever, had a bowl of pasta and lost her shit. She just had a super high anxiety attack and whatnot. She's like, I never want to feel that ever again. So now she's been gluten-free for a year as well. And I've never noticed anybody that's that close to me that's had it. I mean, I've read lots of things, but I've never noticed anything.
That's the only two I've ever heard of. I'm Italian, man. You got bread and pasta in our diets every freaking day.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean,
so
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. It was brutal. The troubleshooting part of it was brutal, because you catch yourself and you're like, oh my God, why do I hate this person all of a sudden so much? Or why do I feel like I have a target on this person? Because they said something irrelevant, or they cut me off in traffic, for instance. Now you're road raging onto them, right?
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, it's like testing for normal allergies is already so terrible, right? Like, if you don't do the allergies, like, so I'm really, really, really allergic to mangoes. But I come from an Asian family, so the classic response for Asian families is just eat more of it and you'll conquer it, right? And so when I developed the allergy when I was in my 20s, and my parents were like, don't worry about it, just eat some more and you'll be fine, right? But every time I eat it, like I'd blow up like a grapefruit, I'd be like twice this size, my hands are like twice. And so it's just like every time you just know, like, shit, it's validation every time, but it's awful. I don't want to do, like, it makes you, I love mangoes, right? Like, oh my God, I can't believe. And that's just a regular, like, physiological, like, my mind is fine, right? My mind is relatively sound. I'm just going through physiological torture. For you, it's like,
there's a different response.
It's really traumatic, right? Like,
I have
it's a lot.
I have no guts. Like, it doesn't bother my stomach at all. It doesn't bother my stomach at all.
Right.
My brother has a bit of skin problems, so like, I don't know if it's hereditary or whatever, but his is like, he's got some eczema and stuff. And, but he doesn't.
He gone gluten-free?
He's gone. He didn't want to believe it, but then he did a ketogenic diet for a while, and of course that's mostly gluten-free.
Found some benefits.
He found some calmness in it, right?
And okay, so I mean, I know that they all, for years we've always, you are what you eat. I mean, if things bother you, they bother you. I mean, it is I guess,
Shit, okay.
Wow. Anyway, that's an interesting path.
So then Barb finds this recipe, right?
I still don't understand the
recipe.
Of course,
I can't taste it. I can't taste it because it has soy sauce in it, right?
Okay.
So that's a part of their recipe, that they have soy sauce in it. So she brings it home and she changes the recipe. She makes it gluten-free and balances the flavors, because she's really good with her palate, and she has all this cooking experience. And she makes changes to it. And then, so we're putting it on everything here, right? We're eating it with everything. We're like, well, let's take it with us to the grocery or to the restaurant when we go, right? She got a little squeeze bottle in her purse and stuff, you know?
So restaurants just love that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So and this is about going on for about a year, right? So, and then I'm like, finally, we got to sell this. And so the difference between my family is that we moved every 3 years. My dad was a business guy, right? Everything was about change and being comfortable in change. And hers was about stability. Her dad worked at the same company for 30 years. When he retired, or when that company went broke, he worked for 15 years at another company, you know, that kind of stability. Yeah. Lived in the same house for 40 years, that kind of a thing. So when I was trying to get her to be on board with this, she's like, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. Well, we're going to just change. It's, we'll
scary, right?
Stay where we are and just don't rock the boat, right? So I bugged her for about a year, and finally she's like, okay, do it then, fine, right? Well, I don't know anything about CPG. I have no clue about anything. So that's the connection. That's where it came from. And so now I'm like, okay, I have to find packaging. I have to find bottles. I have to find lids and caps. What are we going to do it in?
Where were you making it?
Well, we first started.
You did small batch at home, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we did a small batch at home, a bigger batch.
So farmers markets in the area, and
yeah, we made 100 bottles. She made 100 bottles, and we went to a farmers market in James Bay Market.
Yeah.
Bought a booth there for the summer. It was $500, and at the time, it was a lot of money. And we were there to make an extra few $100, right? So I got the marketing girl down the hall from me at Brentwood. She gave me a hand for a bottle of wine, and the guy with the website, he did it for a case of beer and, that kind of thing. And she made a little design. And
mine's tequila, if you're ever wondering.
Oh, okay. So mine, by the
way. I still like cash, but I can do other things too.
And then, so I was like, well, if you didn't have the internet, how would you do this? Like if this was the early 90s, like how would you start a CPG company? I wouldn't even have the first clue right now. You'd have to get some supplier from somewhere. At least these days, I can just find a supplier online and order 50 bottles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And caps and whatever. So I ordered 500 bottles from Ampac in Vancouver, and I got some caps online at some company in New Jersey, and got some labels made up by a little company in Victoria. And we went to the farmers market, and it was just kind of blowing up, right? And people were coming buying 6 bottles at a time because they were afraid we weren't going to be back next week. And then by the time the end of the summer came along, almost everybody that are regular customers are like, you got to be where can we get it when the market's closed? And I'm like, I have no idea. I've never even thought that far ahead. I'm making an extra 500. I was
happy enough to get here.
What's that?
You were happy enough just to get where you got.
Exactly.
So you're doing like 100 bottles a week then. I'm it's kitchen capacity. That. So, and then just doing the show on the Saturday. I'm assuming it's the farmer's market Saturday kind of thing, 10 till 2, sell out. And then.
Yeah. Next week, you make another 100 bottles, 80 bottles or whatever. Sell them out again. Yeah.
Wow.
And then, and the customers are like, you got to get into retail. And I'm like, well, that's another whole ball of wax.
You're like, I'm in retail. Calm down. This is it. Yeah. So just come on, people, work with me.
Wow.
Well, now we can't make it at our house, right? So it changes the game completely, right?
Right.
So we had to rent a space in Duncan, and we carted all of our stuff there, made a batch, and then brought it back here and stored it.
So you rented a small kit, food
commercial kitchen,
kind of by the commercial kitchen. Yeah. And you guys are still doing it by yourself at this point. Like you're still manufacturing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we rented that space, got into Old Farm Market, was our very first store in Duncan. And then I think the Root Cellar in Victoria was our second store. And then we got right after that, they say you're never supposed to do this, but I walked into the Red Barn Market in Oak Bay.
Yeah.
And I had 2 bottles with me, and I put them in front of the lady at the till, and I said, this one's for you and this one's for your manager. I said, so if you guys would like to have this in your store, have her call me. And I gave her my number, all written down on a little piece of ripped paper in the car. And she called me back about a half an hour later and she said, oh, I tasted it at the market, blah, blah, blah. We want it in the store. I'm going to actually talk to Stacy.
By the way, that's the best way to do it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I mean, maybe
then,
not on cash, no transaction, maybe not the greatest place, like spot to do it, but the idea is right.
Yeah. So she talked to the produce director, and we were in all 5 of them in less than a month. And so went from there, and then we got into all the local little stores around Victoria, right? Yeah. Because it becomes a thing that's local, right? And this community, they support local.
Well, the island's really
I've never seen, I've never seen. So you wouldn't be able to do that in Calgary. Either you're in Calgary Co-op or you're nowhere.
Right.
Maybe you're in Sunterra markets, but you're in,
right.
Still a 5 or 6 store chain. That's pretty big, right? So by the time the local markets all took it, Duncan and Nanaimo and Victoria, we were in about 50, 60 stores. That's just on the island. I'm driving up and down the island trying to deliver all these, and we're carting everything after our jobs. We're carting everything to this commercial kitchen in the evening, going back and forth to produce.
Right? How much can you make now, though? Like, because now if you're in 50, 60 stores, and if even there's stock pack 12, like, not that you're going to sell out in a week, but
we were doing 250 bottles twice a week.
Okay, but that's 5 times what you were doing.
Yeah.
Not that long before that, right? That's a big deal. I mean, from 100 bottles a week to 500 a week is a lot.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Well, I wasn't consistent, but
it doesn't matter. That's still a lot.
Remember, right? Yeah.
You're working full time. Yeah. Kids, like, there's a lot of lot of shit going on, right?
Yeah. So then my mind is, well, I have to go through all this the real CPG stuff. Like, I have to get like a GS1 account. I have no idea about any.
Okay, most people in the industry still don't know what the hell that is. So you're okay.
But I know I need it, right? So, and then I have to
just get a Sharpie, a little.
Just draw lines. Put some numbers underneath.
We actually all wish that it was just that simple, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now I got to go through the labeling regulations, right? So at this time I got some cobbled together little label that only has English on it. And that's fine because we're in a local area. So apparently the rules,
and you're out west, right? So
you can it's actually, it's not fine, but you can make it work.
Yeah, I guess it's apparently it's 2 government districts away from you. So local, you're
even that's
something like that. But
whatever.
I changed it as soon as I got off the island.
So I'm assuming your nutritional panel wasn't to spec and all the other.
No, it wasn't.
You even had one.
Yeah, exactly.
How many calories? A few.
But I had to go through all that stuff, right? Find out what that was. And Barb's like working on shelf stability, right? Like, because she had to do that before really getting into the stores, making sure the stability of it. So we're like getting lab testing while we're like bringing boxes to the Old Farm Market. We're getting lab testing done. And all
shelf stability is not that is not.
It's a science unto its own, right?
Like, it doesn't matter how much of a foodie you are, right? Like, shelf stable is like a whole different. It's like jumping into CPG for the first time. You're like, I'm sorry, what am I worried about? Like,
exactly.
I put a cap on it. Doesn't that stop everything from happening?
You're in a different spot too.
Right?
You're refrigerated.
No, we're not.
You're not.
No,
okay, so you're shelf stable, which but oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah, it's not cooked, right?
Wow.
So it's salad dressing, so it's cold filled. So there's a cleanliness level that you need to have, right? So,
there's a whole different Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we got through all of that stuff, and then finally I was like, okay, well, I need to get to the mainland. Like, how can we make this work? And so I ended up with a distributor for a very short period of time. They got us across the water and got us to do a couple of stores, but it wasn't right. Didn't feel right.
Not a good fit.
The relationship didn't feel right. And so I had a call from a guy. He was a foodie and he owned a company called Jade Fine Foods. Shout out to them. And he's like, I want to take a run at Thrifties. And I'm like, go for it. Right? I don't care. Well, the other guy got pissed off because they want exclusive rights or something like this. And I'm like, well, out of principle now, I'm going to just go with this guy. And Jade did really well for us. They got us into about 250 stores in Western Canada. They basically reached their limit as far as they could get us to. And yeah, they did really well. And one of the first things they got for us right during COVID is Thrifty's does a local supplier kind of promotion. Well, they were supposed to come out to our facility and then do a huge photo shoot and all that stuff. And they couldn't do it because it was COVID. It was like right March 20th kind of a thing. They were supposed to be at our door, and then everything got locked down, so they didn't get on their planes, and so they couldn't do it. So they did they did a cartoon version of a Yeshi bottle and this whole thing, and they put banners of Yeshi in all their stores.
That's
and
awesome.
Our sales were just ridiculous. So I mean, it gets you this crazy promotion when you're really young and really new at it.
Yeah.
So to go back a little bit, the facility, we as we were carting everything back and forth to this commercial kitchen in Duncan, I'm like, this is not feasible. Like, we can't keep doing this. So we live in a rural area, and we're on a septic field, and we have city water. And so I was able to turn my garage into a commercial kitchen. And so I pulled everything out of my garage, right? Re-drywalled everything, painted everything, painted the floors, got stainless steel counters and tables and everything, put in a commercial sink, and got VHA to come out and inspect it. And they expected it to be approved for a commercial kitchen. And we worked out of there for 3.5 years out of that space. I had 3 shipping containers in my yard because I was putting stuff into the yard.
Jesus.
And yeah, at the end of that, by the time we moved out of that facility, we did 200,000 bottles in our last year out of my garage.
Holy crap.
Holy shit.
Yeah. That was just that 1 year.
And what year are we in now at that point?
Well, that was 2021, at the end of 2021.
Wow. So right smack dab in the middle of COVID, you're working out of the garage and stuff.
Yeah. Well, COVID was awesome for us because of that promotion that Thrifty's did. And because there's 30% more people in the grocery stores because all the restaurants.
Yeah, grocery went nuts, right? Obviously. So
yeah.
Wow.
So it helped us really well. I think that we were just at the point where we had just got out of our full-time jobs at that point too. Barb was out.
So this is a full-time thing now for the two.
Oh yeah. Since COVID, I basically got laid off for COVID and then didn't go back.
So I mean, it's serendipitous, right? I mean, it worked out okay.
Yeah, it worked out great for both.
And it's also like, sorry, Kenny, but
go.
There's an intersection here too, right? Because I think during the pandemic, we all started cooking a little bit more, but anyone who for 1 second wanted to do something different from mainstream, either because of dietary reasons or because they wanted to explore it for lifestyle, it's the right time too, right?
Timing was good for a lot of
literally
things.
have nothing else to do, so you might as well go and figure some of that stuff out. So you're in the right place at the right time, right? Like in a lot of ways. So
totally.
Wow, that's really cool.
So from the garage to where?
We have a 2,500 square foot facility right in Cobble Hill. There was a space for rent in the back of a wood shop, and there were 2 spaces side by side. So we took the end one and separate ourselves from the dust. Rebuilt that whole thing, re-drywalled it and everything like that. And now that we have a facility in there that we do some of our production in, and we've had to move to a co-packer in Vancouver for some of the production as well. Because
you're doing both. You're doing some yourself and some is farmed out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And this is all pretty recent though. Like, so we're talking 2020, mid 2021, late 2021.
Yeah.
That you've done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and at that point you're doing, you said like 200,000 bottles on the year. So we're, March 2023. What's it looking like?
We're looking, we're probably
what's going on in the kitchen?
We're on track to do about 400,000 bottles this year.
Jesus.
Because at the same time, basically right around the time we moved is when we started looking for national distribution.
Right.
And then that's when we ended up with Star. So Star, we've been working with Star not quite a full year yet. So
how'd you end up with those guys? What a mess.
I ended up having a broker. They're amazing.
I love Kyle and the crew. I've always liked those guys.
They're pretty cool.
You picked good people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
seriously. I mean, even I don't care if they listen to it or not. They know. I mean, you pick good people. They're
Well,
honest. They're
yeah.
hardworking. They're just
Flexibility.
good guys. They're good people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's
Wow.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I had a broker for a little while, and
Yeah.
um, we were looking for national distribution, so we got into talks with UNFI, and we got into talks with Tree of Life, and we ended up with Star. Like, we couldn't make it work with Tree of Life, and we couldn't make it work with
I think you
UNFI.
might have got lost in there anyway.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
I
what I
mean,
was
they're
thinking,
good at
right?
what they do. They're good box movers, and again, there's a lot of good people there. But
Hmm.
you're not going to get the love and attention that you probably
Yeah.
should have, at least at the beginning, for sure. I mean, there may be a point where it
Yeah.
makes sense. I don't really see
Maybe.
it, but there
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah.
But you think you ended up in a good spot no matter what.
Yeah. And then so yeah, we went through our negotiations with Star, and it all worked out. And they kind of do everything all in one. So like, there's very little chargebacks, because
No,
they do a promotional kind of inclusion.
right.
So instead of charging me back 5% of everything,
Mm.
or whatever, right?
Oh,
They're also smart. They
kind of
build a
like
lot of
getting
that in up
papered to
front.
death.
Well, they
Yeah.
build a lot in
Yeah.
front. I mean, they're not
Yeah.
the least expensive people on the block,
No,
but there's valid reasons for it,
right.
because you can either get inexpensive up front and nickel and dime to death,
Well, that's what I didn't want to do.
and literally to death,
Yeah.
or you go with someone who can actually balance it out, and you actually end up in a better spot, and probably if
Well,
people
now when I
actually
get
want
a
to do it.
chargeback list from these
Yeah,
guys, I can read it.
that too.
And it's like four
Yeah.
things or whatever, and it's like, these are samples. Oh, great! At least
All
I
right.
know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can manage
Yeah.
that mentally.
Yeah,
I got that figured
exactly.
out. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And they just
Wow.
got us into Longos, and it was in
That's his
December with the
country.
Longo.
That's
What's
his
that?
That's
side
my
of the world.
neighborhood. When
Yeah.
are they, like, they're listed?
Actually, you got one
Oh,
of the kids
they're
still in
already in there.
Longos.
It was listed in December, and then we
Okay.
went into the
Okay.
stores January
It's on the
6th.
shopping list now.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm putting it on the shopping list now.
And
was
then
awesome.
we were supposed to do a buy one get one with them, and it kind of didn't. Some things didn't work out so well, and so they're helping us support us to make some changes to our going forward for some of the things that happened. I don't even know what they were. And then just recently, I think it was at the Expo West, Kevin told me that we just got into the Sobeys West planogram.
Hey,
So
that's a nice one.
Wow,
Yeah.
you are.
That's a nice one. So
Yeah.
Sobeys West, we're talking Alberta, BC. So the IGAs in Alberta, and the
Yeah.
Sobeys and Thrifties here,
And the Safeways.
and the
all over.
Safeways.
Yeah, I'm not
Well,
sure
that's
if
not
Saskatchewan
bad.
and Manitoba included.
What do you mean that's
Depends
not
what they
bad?
define as West,
That's
because
pretty
they're funny
big,
that way.
though.
That's really good.
That's big.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's a
So
lot of
we're pretty
bottles,
excited
man.
about that. Yeah, it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that puts us at about 700 stores. So right
And
now.
turning.
And turning. Yeah.
So
That's
the
the thing.
product. So not
Yeah.
you don't have to trade secret. You don't have to give us trade secrets, but I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you anyway. So
Yeah.
like, what are sort of like how quick does this stuff move off shelves?
Um,
Can you do a case
well,
of what case 12? Stack pack 12, stock pack 6.
sorry, say that again.
Your stock pack is 6 or 12?
12.
Kenny,
Yeah.
Kenny,
12.
slow your retail brain down. This is Kenny the buyer. So when Kenny the buyer comes out, this is what happens. He goes,
I can't do
what?
it.
Well, it's hard.
I can't slow down. So like you can go through a case every 2 months, more or less, probably in a store, or a little quicker than that.
Oh, well, in Thrifties in the West Coast, like it's a thing. Like it's just
Yeah.
normal here, right? Like we try and use our Thrifties as a benchmark.
Yeah, you can't use your
13,000
backyard where they love you to bits. I mean, come on.
just our Thrifties sold 13,000 bottles since mid 2021.
That's a lot of freaking salad dressing.
I know.
That is.
So obviously it's not
Holy
like that. The further you go away from local,
well, that's home, but still,
yeah, it turns in the smaller communities too. We just got to
really
get
impressive.
our marketing over there, right?
Yeah, but that's really impressive, because again, it's not. I mean, the salad dressing category is not a category that really has grown.
No,
Or actually, to be honest with you, it's actually gone the opposite. It's been in decline for years.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So to find something, again, that's why it's an interesting set to go into. I mean, it's not, if someone said to me, hey, listen, I got an idea, I want to go into, dressings, I'd look and think, guys, seriously,
Yeah, don't.
I don't know, man. I wouldn't. That's really not a category that's seen any growth per se in years.
But it's a neat category because like I get that our household is not normal, but like I have a peanut allergy in my household, and I have an egg allergy and a fish allergy in my household.
Yeah, so
well, and mangoes, right? So but I pick up your original dressing, and you're right in that spot, right? I can use it for for anything, right? Like
and anybody in the house without worrying.
like everybody. I don't even I leave it in my fridge and I'm good, right? Like all the time, every time, right? So it's kind of like I think that's something like I think that is something that's been a long time coming. People are starting to really appreciate that. And I think there's more to come, right? Like, so I actually think that it's something new to that category because we have struggled. The one daughter who has the egg allergy doesn't know anything besides Italian dressing.
Well,
because it's the only thing, right? Yeah.
Because you can't have the creamy ones.
Nope.
Because all the creamy ones have egg or something. Or dairy, right?
Yeah. So, correct.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it kind of hit a few kind of allergy helpers there, kind of thing. Or
that's awesome.
Dairy free is becoming a thing too, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So how do you market this? Are you marketing yourself as obviously it's gluten free?
Yeah.
Like what is the marketing? Like what is the call out?
I think the position there is kind of more taste, right?
Right.
But it's definitely gluten free. We're trying to keep it. We're using co-packers now, right? So the nut free, egg free, dairy free, those kinds of things that might become a bit of a challenge to enforce as we go to these larger models, right? But our facility is completely
you can find them though. They're out there. Maybe not in our province right now. Ontario might be,
or at least certified in those, right? I mean, and they're all really good at allergens, right? I mean, especially from a stainless steel,
right. It's the whole facility though. You know what it's like. You can't. It's all.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, for you.
So mostly that's what it is. And we want to be, from a marketing point of view, we want to be like the premium guy in the conventional section, right? I mean, we're kind of being healthy because nutritional yeast is super healthy.
For sure.
Got super high amounts of protein and P vitamins and that kind of thing. But I don't want to be stuck with one listing on the top corner of a conventional section that they call, that's our natural section.
Yeah, ultra niche,
over there,
right?
Yeah. So I don't want to be pigeoned into there,
right?
Especially moving to the larger markets, right?
But you will be. I mean, you're already. I don't know. I it's weird how much I feel like I can kind of shop that set mentally, but that set is trying to say this politely. It's not like it's pretty junky, right? Like it's a pretty junky set. There's a handful of like
high sugar, high sodium. It's really not
like
it's
celebrity
not
kind of labels in there that
it's a lot of shit.
It needs to be revamped, right? It needs to be revamped, right?
Which is probably why it's been in decline for some years. Because a lot of the same shit in there. Nothing's changed. High sugar, high this, high that.
From a buyer's perspective, like I want to be able to say, well, we're bringing something new to that table, to that set, right? And we're going to bring people into the aisle, right? That kind of thing, right?
So without trade secret, are you thinking? Because I'm assuming, are you thinking maybe sauces? Are you thinking of the same sort of recipe, but maybe a rebrand so that it's not just a dressing, but maybe could be marketed as a sauce? I mean, you don't even have to change anything. You just change a label practically. Is there, I mean, not again, you don't have to tell me like that, but I'm kind of just curious to see if there's...
So I just hired a chef, right? Who's going to give Barb a hand with product development. He's super worldly. He's worked in kitchens all over the world.
Right.
And, his wife is actually a rep for Jameson, so he kind of got a little bit of that understanding of the world too.
Cool.
And so, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to be more along the lines of nutritional yeast products. So we're going to find and do development with nutritional yeast in products and make them, awesome, and teach people that part of what could be. And I mean, there's so many things of nutritional yeast and it's not just nutritional yeast, but yeast extracts and flavors and things like that are, and so we're going to position ourselves that way. And like I say, we have a new product that's coming out, a new product line that's coming out. I'm going to open that up at the CHFA.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so anybody can kind of come by the booth there and see that. And Barbara is releasing a ranch dressing that we're just starting up right now, and that's going to be at the CHFA as well.
Awesome.
So finishing up our packaging and whatnot with that kind of thing. And
so we should swing by with a couple of mics, Kenny.
We can.
We can film some stuff. We'll throw it on Fast Thoughts.
In Star Rows.
Stars Row,
Star grocery set there. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Wow, really exciting.
We're working like crazy because I want to get stuff finished before the CHFA, right?
You know what?
We're all doing the same thing. Like, it's only
I always
2
tell
weeks
people,
away. Like, what's going on?
You know, what you got to try to remember too, what you really want to bring at worst case is as close to as out of concept and almost there. So even if it's a mock-up and you're launching 6-8 weeks later, who gives a shit? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like, but they'll be excited to see something new. You don't go nuts trying to get all this done because it doesn't happen. Yeah. And you don't need to. Be ready though. Have your sheets ready and have the mock-ups and let me taste it would be awesome. Yeah. You know, that's you're good to go after that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's basically where we're at.
Yeah.
Perfect. Two of the three are ready, and I'm waiting on samples from the other.
That's awesome.
The other one, so I can't.
Exciting.
Yeah. Really, but all the labels done, mock-ups are done, and everything. So
I guess we'll see at the show.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. And we'll come by and check out the new stuff. That's
very cool. Good
awesome.
for you.
Awesome.
What a great story.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for coming on. This has been
Thanks for coming
amazing.
on, Paul. I may thank Kyle. I may not. I will see how I feel.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to.
Kyle's lucky he's got you. Let's do that.
Yeah, I'm going with that. I'm going with that too. I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
Yeah. He might not let us down the aisle when we
we had no other people
in
this company.
Get your mics out of here. We don't want you.
I know, right? You guys
we got other friends in that aisle. It's not just Kyle. He might be the big cheese, but we know a lot of other cheese in that building and that side too, including the people that he represents. We're all good to go, Phil. Don't worry.
It's true.
Kyle,
I appreciate Kyle bringing it up when he was on the show and putting me on to you guys. So he
was super excited about it. And I think it's just, which is good though, because that's what that's what we're always shooting for too. Is like. Yeah, it's sort of the referrals from the peeps that we know,
right?
Because the stories are cool.
And he's right. Like we started in a farmer's market, and you don't usually see them become national brands, right? So
they don't, because they don't usually price properly. It's usually a disaster. They get a following, but they get a following at $4.99. Yeah, and by the time they realize, well, I'm going to be $9.99, and everybody else is saying, well, I'm not doubling up.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I can't do that.
Well, I had to do that too. I had to do it already. Right?
It's hard though.
Yeah.
I mean, lucky we're just, not just in, but if you're in Mill Bay, James Bay, it's a little different than being, at Trout Lake or at the P&E.
Right.
Because now you've potentially blown a whole region of the city.
Right.
It's now used to a price point that's a fantasy on the best day.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and you're right. It is about 4 times.
Yeah, it typically is. I know nobody believes that, but I hate to tell you guys that's life in the big city.
Because when you get bigger, everybody's like, okay,
everybody wants your money, buddy.
Exactly.
It's only, and then it's like it always starts with 3 zeros, right?
Can we do that? Oh yeah, no listing fees.
Right?
Oh, great, no listing fees, nothing. That's awesome. How about a free fill? Or 4 zeros. Oh yeah, there's lots of zeros.
Yeah.
Now you'll be good. At least you got guys who understand that. Like their crew gets it. They'll protect you from the insanity of our space.
So if people want to find you, where do they find the brand, and then where do they find you?
So in Western Canada, you can find the brand at most major retailers. Okay. Thrifty, Save on Foods, IGAs.
Okay, so you're throughout the province.
Throughout the province, yeah. Okay. In Alberta, Calgary Co-op, Safeway, Save on Foods, of course. Right? So we're in all the Save on Foods. We're in the warehouse there, and that's Winnipeg and everything. And then in Ontario, and of course a bunch of independents as well, right?
Yep.
And in Ontario, we're gaining ground in the market there, so we're probably in about 65 stores over there, and then Longo's. So Longo's right now, and we're waiting for some of the Sobeys to come on board there as well.
Awesome.
And Foodlands.
And online if they want to find you?
Online if they want to find us, but shipping is so expensive for one bottle.
What's the address? So even if they just want to learn about you.
What's that?
Even if they just want to learn about you.
Oh yeah, absolutely online for sure. Yeah.
So Yeshi.com.
Yeshi. So YESHI. So YESHI dressing.com, right?
.com.
That's the right place. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. And if they want to chat with you, LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn would be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put the links into
amazing.
Phil.
Yeah. I'll throw the links in. Yeah.
I say we, but it's not a we, it's a Phil. But
it's a we. It's a we.
That's
it's a royal
podcast.
We.
Yeah.
A royal we. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Paul, thanks so much. This has
awesome,
been amazing.
buddy.
We really appreciate this. Yeah.
Okay, go make some dressing now.
Yeah, exactly.
You go to work, Phil. You hang on.
Okay. Thanks,
you
Paul.
go enjoy your day.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul. Take care, man.
See ya.
Ciao. It's cool.
That is that's a crazy story.
It's just weird that it's weird that you'd have that recipe in. It's just weird.
So the recipe is weird. The recipe is weird. Like the whole, it was just there. Is weird. But it's also like super funky. This idea of like how much gluten would affect him. Like that's a pretty crazy swing.
It's a lot. I mean, that's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
And then having said that, because you've got allergies and I've got allergies, like, and you try to tell people, like, if you have bad allergies, like I'm talking food allergies, like even spring, we're going to be blossoming all over the city pretty soon. And when the allergies hit, like they really take a physical and mental toll on you. Like they really
do. Yeah. It's quite taxing.
It sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's a little on the extreme side, what he had to go through and what his family had to go through. Yeah. But I'm glad they figured it out, and good on them for at least getting that far. So
yeah.
Okay, I gotta go to work. I know. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody.